Hey YouTube, it's Little Rocker Cutie 2005, also known as Andre, here with you again. Also chilling with Buffyxenaman once again. And today I am going to talk to you about what I've watched in the past month. Starting with Final Destination 5. Now this was a pretty interesting sequel, and if you've seen the end of it, if you've seen the movie, then you know how it ends. And it's a pretty interesting way to end it, with them going on with these characters going on Flight 180, and of course they end up dying, but you see a little bit from the first one with Alex and his friends being kicked off the plane, and there's some pretty cool death scenes in this movie, I will give it that. I mean, this one packed more of a punch than the fourth one in my opinion, and I really enjoyed it. Any thoughts?
Good movie.
Okay, next we have the original I Spit on Your Grave. Now, this movie was just, I don't even know how to describe it to you people. I mean, the rape scene in this movie takes like 30 minutes of it, and I was just waiting for it to be over and for her to get her revenge at the end, which she does in some pretty gruesome ways. Now I'm just waiting for the remake. I mean, the remake's out, I just haven't seen it yet, but it is one that I do want to see. Next up, I watched the original Halloween. Now, this is the extended cut of it, and basically, we all know the story of Halloween. Michael Myers, crazed killer, kills his sister in 1963, is in the insane asylum for 15 years, then breaks out to go after Jamie Lee Curtis. And pretty much, that's where it goes, and that's where it ends. Until Halloween 2, which picks up right where the original leaves off and brings back Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode, with Michael Myers coming after her again, this time in the deserted halls of the hospital. But this was actually a pretty good sequel in my opinion. I really liked this one. Then I watched Psycho 2, the first sequel to the original Psycho. Now this was a pretty interesting movie. I'd never seen it before, and I thought it was just really interesting. I mean, Norman coming back from an insane asylum after 22 years. Like it says in the trailers, it's 22 years later and Norman Bates is coming home. And that's pretty much how it is. Because he comes back and he still can't escape Mother.
Don't we? Oh, some of us escape the Mother.
Some of us do, some of us don't.
Well, if your mother's a dead corpse, you're like, you still getting orders and something's wrong with you.
Well, that is true.
Kill Norman, kill.
Yeah. Norman! Alright, next I have Let Me In. This was a pretty decent vampire flick, with an interesting twist. Instead of the vampire being an adult, it's a 12-year-old kid. Now, this had some pretty interesting, I don't know if you'd call them twists and turns. I mean, it was a horror movie, but it was kind of like a thriller at the same time, because you don't see the girl kill anybody until probably like 35-40 minutes into the movie maybe. And after she's met the boy she becomes friends with, that's when like shit starts hitting the fan, because the bullies are picking on him, and of course in the end she finally takes out all the bullies in a very bloody and graphic way. Now next I took 2 nights and I watched, the first night I watched Wrong Turn 1 and Wrong Turn 2. The original's pretty good. It's got Eliza Dushku, Desmond Harrington. It's a really great cast, and it's about these college kids who get stranded in the backwoods of Greenbrier Country, backcountry, West Virginia, and there's these inbred killers after them. And it's really good. It's really gory. The effects were done by the Stan Winston Company, and of course, Stan Winston, of course, he was one of the best in the game. May he rest in peace. And then Wrong Turn 2, which is a pretty solid sequel. The killers are back, and this time they're going up against a group of survivalists led by Henry Rollins, who are all in the woods of Greenbrier to film this reality show. And of course, in the end, Henry Rollins ends up dying, which, of course, particularly me being a hard rock and metal fan, I didn't like the fact that they killed Henry Rollins. I was like, why kill him?
He kicked ass.
True. Then we have Wrong Turn 3. Now, this one pits the inbreds against some prisoners. And there's a transport bus going through these woods, and they're transporting prisoners to another prison, while the inbreds wreck the bus, and of course, the prisoners try and escape, and of course, you got the killers going after the prisoners, and it's basically like prisoners versus killers, and you know, which one's gonna win. Then we have Wrong Turn 4, Bloody Beginnings, which is the prequel to the original Wrong Turn. And it basically tells the story of how these inbred killers came to be, how they were kept in this like sanatorium separate from everybody else, and they break out and start killing everybody. They're basically hiding out in this sanatorium when they're growing up, and these college kids all get stranded there because they get caught in a snowstorm during a snowmobile trip. And of course, it's open season as the killers go after everybody. And finally, I watched the original Bad News Bears. This one I think is better than the remake because of both Walter Matthau and Tatum O'Neal. And if you look carefully, you'll see an early performance from Jackie Earle Haley from, as we all know, from Watchmen, and he's now playing Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street remakes.
Ugh.
Yeah, I agree there. But he did a really good job in this movie as the motorcycle riding badass who could swing a mean stick. But that's it for what I've watched, and there will be another video coming up where we talk about some of my anime collection, and that'll be in a little bit here, and so we'll see you next time around. Peace.